The stars sparkled like diamonds against the black canvas of space. Lieutenant He Jin stood at the main window of the Terran Space Force ship Galaxy Pioneer, his dark eyes fixed on something that shouldn't be there. A wooden ship, perfectly preserved, floated silently among the stars. "Captain, we've confirmed it," said Ji-min, her fingers moving quickly across the screen of her tablet. "It's the Mary Celeste, the ship that vanished from Earth's Atlantic Ocean in 1872. He Jin rubbed his eyes. He had studied the mystery of the Mary Celeste at the Space Academy, but finding it here, near the Orion Nebula, thousands of light years from Earth, it made no sense. "Any life signs?" he asked, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "None," Taiho replied from his security station. "But the ship's structure is intact. It's as if it was sealed in a bubble of perfect preservation." He Jin made his decision. "Prepare the boarding pods. Ji-min, Taiho, you're with me. We need to see this with our own eyes." The three officers put on their spacesuits, checking each other's seals twice. This was not a normal mission. Nothing in their training had prepared them for finding a 19th-century sailing ship in deep space. Their boarding pod moved slowly toward the Mary Celeste. Up close, the wooden ship looked even more impossible. Its sails were still attached, frozen in a non-existent wind. The name Mary Celeste was clearly visible on its side, the paint looking as fresh as if it had been applied yesterday. "Look at the wood," Jae-min said in wonder as they approached. "No rot, no damage. It's perfect." They landed their pod on the main deck. The artificial gravity in their boots helped them stay down in the zero-gravity environment. He Jin took the first step onto the deck. The wood felt solid under his feet. "Split up," he ordered. "Jae-min, check the cargo hold. Taiho, take the crew quarters. I'll examine the bridge. Stay in radio contact." He Jin walked carefully toward the ship's wheel. His suit's lights illuminated the ancient wood and brass fixtures. Everything was exactly as it should be on a ship from 1872, except for one thing. There was no dust. Not anywhere. "Lieutenant," Jae-min's voice crackled over the radio. "You need to see this. In the cargo hold." "What did you find?" I don't know how to explain it, but there's something here that's definitely not from 1872. He Jin made his way down to the cargo hold. When he saw what Jae-min had found, he stopped in his tracks. Crystals grew from the wooden beams, giving off a soft blue light. They looked like nothing he had ever seen before. "They're reacting to our presence," Jae-min said, holding up her scanner. "The energy readings spike whenever we get closer." From the crew quarters, Taiho's voice came through their radios. "Sir, I found the ship's log. Last entry dated December 4, 1872. But there's something strange about it." "What do you mean?" He Jin asked. "The final entry. It talks about lights in the sky. And then this quote, 'They are not stars. They move with purpose. God help us all.' That's where it ends." He Jin looked at the glowing crystals, then back at the wooden walls of this impossible ship. A cold feeling crept up his spine despite his temperature-controlled suit. "Galaxy Pioneer," he called through his radio. "Scan the area around the Mary Celeste. Look for any unusual energy signatures or anomalies." The response came back immediately. "Sir, we're detecting some kind of field surrounding the vessel. It's like nothing we've ever seen before." He Jin watched as one of the crystals pulsed with light, almost like a heartbeat. On a ship that had been missing for over 500 years, they had just found something alive. "Send all data back to command," he ordered. "And prepare the quarantine bay. We're bringing back samples." As they prepared to collect specimens, none of them noticed the slight shimmer in the air or the way the shadows seemed to move when no one was looking. The Mary Celeste had kept its secrets for centuries. It wasn't going to give them up easily. Ji-min stood in the cargo hold of the Mary Celeste, her scanner humming as it analyzed the strange crystals. She had been studying them for 3 hours now, but they still made no sense. Every test showed they were both organic and inorganic at the same time. "These readings can't be right," she muttered to herself. She reached out to touch one of the crystals with her gloved hand. The moment she made contact, the entire cluster lit up like a Christmas tree. The blue glow spread through the cargo hold, following the wooden beams like rivers of light. "Lieutenant Ho-Jin," she called through her radio. "The crystals are showing new activity. They seem to respond to physical contact." Up on the deck, Ho-Jin was examining the ship's wheel when Ji-Min's call came through. "Don't touch anything else," he ordered. "Wait for backup." But it was too late. The light had already spread throughout the entire ship. In the crew quarters, Tai-Ho watched as the glow seeped into the old captain's log he had been reading. The book began to warm in his hands. "Sir," Tai-Ho called out, his voice tight with tension. "The log, it's changing." Ho-Jin rushed to the crew quarters, his magnetic boots clanking against the wooden floors. When he arrived, he found Tai-Ho staring at the captain's log. The pages were now filled with new writing, appearing as if an invisible hand was writing them. "December 4, 1872, Tai-Ho read aloud. "The lights have returned. They dance around our ship like fireflies made of crystal. The crew is frightened, but I must know what they are. My wife thinks they're trying to communicate. Perhaps she's right. They seem to respond when we reach out to them." As Tai-Ho read, the blue light pulsed around them, almost as if it was listening. Ji-Min joined them, her scanner still recording data. "There's more." Tai-Ho continued reading. "The lights are growing brighter. They're forming patterns now. Geometric shapes I've never seen before. They want something from us, but what? The crew is talking about leaving the ship. They say it's not natural. But I must know. I must understand." Suddenly, the ship's temperature dropped. Their suit sensors showed it had fallen by 20 degrees in seconds. The blue light dimmed, then brightened again, forming complex patterns on the walls. "Ji-Min," Ho-Jin said, "what are we looking at?" She checked her scanner, her eyes widening. "The patterns, they're mathematical sequences. Like a language, but based on pure mathematics. These aren't random lights. They're trying to talk to us." The patterns shifted again, forming what looked like a three-dimensional map of the solar system. But it wasn't the solar system as they knew it now. It was showing the positions of the planets from 1872. "Look at this," Ji-Min pointed to her scanner screen. "The crystals aren't just growing on the ship. They're growing through time itself. They're connecting this moment to 1872. A noise from above made them all freeze. It sounded like footsteps on the deck, heavy boots walking across wooden planks. But that was impossible. They were the only ones on board. Ho-Jin checked his suit's motion sensors. "Nothing," he said. "No movement detected." The footsteps continued. They could hear voices now too, muffled and distant, speaking in old-fashioned English. The voices seemed to be coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. "The original crew," Tai-Ho whispered. "Are we hearing them across time?" The blue light pulsed again, stronger this time. New writing appeared in the log. "They're here. The ones we've been waiting for. The bridge is almost complete." Ho-Jin made a quick decision. "Everyone back to the Galaxy Pioneer. We need to analyze this data and figure out what we're dealing with." As they turned to leave, Ji-Min's scanner began beeping rapidly. "Lieutenant," she said, her voice shaking. "Something's coming through. The temporal readings are off the charts." The blue light concentrated in the center of the room, forming a swirling vortex of energy. And through that vortex, they could see a figure taking shape, someone wearing clothes from 1872, reaching out toward them through time itself. The mystery of the Mary Celeste was about to become much more complicated. The figure in the swirling blue light faded away before they could see its face. But what happened next shocked them even more. Chief Engineer Sunmai walked onto the Mary Celeste through the main door of the cargo hold, not wearing a spacesuit. "There you all are," she said cheerfully. "I've been looking for you for weeks." Jin stared at her through his helmet visor. Sun Mai, how are you breathing? And what do you mean, weeks? You just helped us dock with the Mary Celeste 3 hours ago. Sun Mai looked confused. 3 hours? No, that's not right. I've been studying the engine room for almost a month now. Look at all my notes. She held up a thick notebook filled with drawings and writing. Jae-min moved closer, her scanner pointed at Sun Mai. Lieutenant, she said quietly, according to these readings, Sun Mai is both here and not here at the same time. It's like she's caught between two different moments. The crystals, Taeho said suddenly. They're doing something to time itself. Look at her notebook. They all watched as Sun Mai flipped through her notebook. The pages were filled with detailed drawings of machinery that shouldn't exist on a wooden sailing ship. But there they were, strange engines that seemed to be made of both metal and crystal, all glowing with the same blue light they had seen before. I found these engines hidden behind the wooden walls, Sun Mai explained. They're amazing. They use the crystals as a power source. But that's not the strangest part. Watch this. She walked over to a wooden wall and pushed. The wall swung open like a door, revealing a room full of machinery that couldn't possibly fit inside the ship's normal structure. It's bigger on the inside, Jin said in wonder. The ship is breaking the rules of space as well as time. Jae-min's scanner beeped again. The temporal readings are all over the place. According to this, we're experiencing multiple time periods all at once. The ship isn't just preserved. It's acting as some kind of temporal junction point. Suddenly, Sun Mai flickered like a bad television signal. For a moment, they could see right through her. Oh, that's been happening a lot lately, she said, as if it was perfectly normal. Time isn't very stable here. Sometimes I'm in yesterday, sometimes I'm in next week. It's making it hard to keep track of my research. Jin made a quick decision. Sun Mai, come back to the Galaxy Pioneer with us. We need to figure out what's happening to you. But I can't leave now, she protested. I'm so close to understanding how it all works. The crystals, the engines, the time slits. It's all connected to the original crew's disappearance. They didn't vanish. They were taken. Or maybe they left on purpose. I'm not sure which yet. As she spoke, the blue light from the crystals grew stronger. Images began to appear on the walls. Shadows of people moving around, going about their daily lives on the ship. They were seeing moments from 1872, playing out like movies all around them. Look at the dates in your logs, Taeho said suddenly. What's today's date? Sun Mai checked her notebook. December 4th, but that's strange. I could have sworn it was January when I started. December 4th, 1872, Jin said quietly. The day the original crew vanished. Sun Mai, we need to leave. Now. But when they turned to look at her, Sun Mai was gone. In her place was a note, written in her handwriting. Don't worry about me. Time isn't what we thought it was. Neither is space. The Mary Celeste isn't just a ship, it's a door. And now I know where it leads. The blue light pulsed one more time, and in that moment, they all heard a voice, not through their radios, but in their minds. The experiment continues. More subjects are needed. Time must be understood. Jin looked at his remaining crew members. We're not leaving without Sun Mai. Whatever this ship is, wherever it leads, we're going to find out. But first, we need to understand what we're dealing with. The mystery of the Mary Celeste had just claimed its first modern victim. The blue lights dimmed and brightened like slow breaths. Jin, Jae-min, and Taeho stayed on the Mary Celeste, determined to find Sun Mai. They had been searching for 2 hours when something strange happened. The air in front of them began to ripple like water. A man in an old captain's uniform walked through the ripple. He didn't see them. He was busy writing in a logbook. It was like watching an old movie being played in the air. Captain Yoon, Jae-min whispered, reading the name on his uniform. The original captain of the Mary Celeste. They watched as Captain Yoon closed his book and walked to a nearby table. He picked up a cup of tea that hadn't been there a moment before. The cup was real. They could see the steam rising from it. "These aren't just images," He-Jin said quietly. "They're moments of real time from 1872. Look, he's leaving footprints in the dust." A woman entered the room through another ripple in the air. She wore a long dress from the 1800s. This was Do-hee, the captain's wife. She walked to the table and sat down next to Captain Yoon. "The lights are back," she said to her husband. Her voice sounded clear, as if she was really there. "They want to show us something. Something wonderful." Tae-ho moved closer to get a better look. He accidentally bumped the table, making the teacup rattle. Both Captain Yoon and Do-hee looked directly at him. "Did you feel that?" Do-hee asked. "We're not alone anymore. They said others would come." "Who said?" He-Jin asked without thinking. To everyone's surprise, Do-hee turned toward his voice. "The ones who live in the spaces between time," she said. "They've been watching us, learning from us. They want to understand how we see time." Captain Yoon stood up, looking around the room. He couldn't see the future crew, but he knew they were there. "If you're hearing this," he said, "then the experiment is working. We agreed to help them." The entire crew agreed. "Help who?" Jaemin asked. "The Watchers," Do-hee answered. "That's what we call them. They showed us such amazing things. Other times, other places. They said humans see time differently than any other beings they've studied. We flow through it like water, always moving forward. They want to understand how we do that." The room suddenly filled with more figures from the past. The entire crew of the Mary Celeste appeared, going about their daily tasks. But they were doing impossible things, walking through walls that hadn't been there in 1872, using machinery that glowed with crystal light. "Look at their clothes," Tae-ho said. "Some of them are wearing clothes from different time periods, like they've been moving through time." Jaemin's scanner beeped rapidly. "The temporal energy is everywhere now. Past and present are mixing together. But it's not random, it's controlled. The crystals are like anchor points, holding different times in place." A young crew member from 1872 walked right through Jaemin. She shivered. It felt like walking through a warm rain. The crew member stopped and looked back, almost like he had felt something too. "The Watchers said others would come," Do-hee continued. "They said the experiment would need more subjects, more ways of seeing time. Are you the ones they waited for?" Before anyone could answer, all the figures from the past began to fade. But Captain Yoon's voice lingered. "Find the engine room. The real one, behind the walls of time. That's where it all started. That's where she'll be." "She?" He-Jin asked. "Do you mean Sunme?" But the past was gone. Only the blue crystal light remained, pulsing steadily like a heartbeat. Yet something had changed. Now they could see faint lines of blue light running through the wooden walls, like paths waiting to be followed. "They're showing us the way," Jaemin said. "Those lines will lead us to the engine room, to Sunme." He-Jin nodded. "Then that's where we're going. But be careful, we're not just walking through space anymore. We're walking through time itself." The blue lines led them through twisting corridors that shouldn't have existed on the Mary Celeste. He-Jin, Jaemin, and Tae-ho followed these glowing paths carefully. Their helmet lights mixed with the blue glow, creating strange shadows on the walls. "Wait," Tae-ho said suddenly. He pointed to his tablet. "Look at this footage from the Galaxy Pioneer's cameras." They huddled around the small screen. The footage showed the Mary Celeste from outside. Around the old wooden ship, a shape moved in space. It looked like a giant geometric pattern made of light, constantly changing its form. "That's them," Jaemin whispered. "The Watchers." A new voice came through their radio. It was Unho, who had stayed behind on the Galaxy Pioneer. "Lieutenant, are you seeing this? The shape, it's not random. It's forming letters." They watched as the pattern twisted itself into words. We study time. We study why mind is. We learn. Can you hear us? Hey Jin asked over the radio. The pattern changed again. Yes. Always. Watching. Learning. Your kind sees time wrong. Interesting. Ji-min adjusted her scanner. The energy readings are off the charts. Whatever this entity is, it exists in multiple dimensions at once. The entity's next message appeared both in space and on the walls around them. Your engineer, UNDERSTANDs, she sees no. Like the others. Time is not a line. Time is a room. You can walk. You mean Sunma? Hejin asked. Where is she? Learning. Walking. In the room of time. With the others. Tai-ho checked his tablet again. Sir, look at this old photo from 1872. He showed them a picture of the Mary Celeste's original crew. In the background, barely visible, was a figure in a modern space uniform. That's Sunma, Jae-min said in shock. She's in their time now. The entity's patterns move faster. Yes, she will case in their time. They will key in yours. All times are one time here. The walls around them suddenly became transparent. They could see into other versions of the same corridors. In one, crew members from 1872 were working. In another, Sunmai was studying the crystal engines. In yet another, the corridors were filled with strange machinery that looked both ancient and futuristic. The ship is a laboratory, Jae-min realized. They're using it to study how humans experience time. Corrected, the entity's patterns spelled out. Your minds, locked in time, moving only forward. Why? How? Must understand. Hejin thought carefully before speaking. These tests, are they dangerous? Are our people safe? The pattern swirled thoughtfully. Sci-Fi. Not how, MET. Only le earning. Some choose to stay. Some return. Their choice. So the original crew wasn't taken, Tai-ho said. They chose to help with the experiment. Some yes. Some no. Some return to their time. Some stay to learn. Some WNTFURTER. The entity's next message appeared slowly, deliberately. No, you must see Jews too. The transparent walls showed them more scenes. Sunmei working with Captain Yoon on the crystal engines. Do-hee teaching past crew members about future technology. People from different times learning from each other. What exactly are we choosing? Hejin asked. To stay, to learn, to walk into a room of time, or to return, to walk only forward. Your choice. Jae-min's scanner began beeping urgently. Lieutenant, the temporal field is getting stronger. Whatever choice we're going to make, we need to make it soon. The ship's different time periods are starting to merge. The entity's final message glowed brightly on every surface. Time is short, even here. Choose now. Stay or go. The experiment must continue. Hejin looked at his crew members. They had come to rescue Sunmei, but now they faced a bigger decision. Should they stay and learn the true nature of time, or return to their own time, leaving the mystery of the Mary Celeste unsolved? The blue crystal light pulsed around them, waiting for their answer. The entity's patterns shifted again, forming a new message. We OFFE or more. Save them all. Bring them here. Now. Save them all. Tai-ho asked. What does that mean? An image appeared on the walls around them. It showed the Mary Celeste in 1872, caught in a terrible storm. Giant waves crashed over the deck. The crew fought against the wind and rain. Their FAT, the entity explained. If they return, storm comes, ship sinks, all lost. Jae-min gasped. That's what really happened to the Mary Celeste. It sank in a storm. Yes, unless you, Help, can save them. Bring them here. To know. Hajin shook his head. But that would change history. The Mary Celeste's disappearance is a famous mystery. If we save them all, won't that affect the timeline? The entity's pattern swirled faster. Time is not lion. Time is room. Many doors. Many paths. Suddenly, Sunmai appeared next to them. But she looked different, older somehow, though only a few hours had passed in their time. I understand it now, she said. The Watchers aren't just studying time. They're trying to help us break free from it. Look at what they showed me. She pressed her hand against a wall. The wood became clear like glass, showing them a complex network of glowing lines. The lines connected different moments in time like a giant web. These are time paths, Sunmai explained. Every choice, every moment, creates new ones. The Watchers can see them all. They'd been watching humanity struggle against time's current. They want to teach us how to swim in it instead. But what about the danger to history? Hajin asked. That's what I've been studying. Sunmai said. The crystals aren't just for power. They're anchors. They can hold different time paths in place, keep them from colliding. We can save the original crew without breaking history. Jaemin's scanner beeped again. She's right. The crystals are creating stable time bubbles. Multiple timelines can exist side by side without affecting each other. The entity's message glowed. Kooristite. But Nimuistishihus now. Power fades. Paths kolapc soon. Taiho looked at his tablet. The temporal field is becoming unstable. Whatever we're going to do, we need to do it fast. Hajin looked at his team. What do you think? Should we try to save them? Before anyone could answer, Captain Yoon appeared. With him were several crew members from 1872. They looked solid, real, not like the earlier visions. We've seen what's coming, Captain Yoon said. The storm that will take our ship. Our lives. The Watchers showed us. They also showed us another path. But the choice must be yours as well as ours. Dewey stepped forward. Some of us want to go back, face our fate. Others want to stay, learn from the Watchers. But we can't decide until you choose. Will you help anchor the time paths? Keep the different choices stable. The entity's patterns formed one last message. Choose now. Save them. Learn with them. Or elite time feflo as bfor. Hajin looked at the original crew members. They were real people, not just figures from history. They had families, hopes, dreams. But changing their fate could have consequences no one could predict. Sunmai put her hand on his shoulder. There's another option. Let each person choose their own path. Those who want to return can return. Those who want to stay can stay. The crystals will keep all paths stable, but only if we act now. The ship creaked around them. The temporal field flickered. Time was running out. Lieutenant, Jaemin said urgently. The field is collapsing. We need to decide. Hajin stood in the center of history's greatest mystery, facing the biggest decision of his life. The fate of two crews, past and present, rested on what he would choose next. Hajin made his decision quickly. Everyone gets to choose their own path, he said firmly. But we need to stabilize the time paths first, or no one will have a choice at all. The entity's pattern spun rapidly. Good choice. Must act fast. Bridge failing. The ship shook violently. Different time periods started to blur together. In one corner, they could see the calm seas of 1872. In another, the stormy waves that would sink the ship. The present time flickered in and out like a bad radio signal. The temporal field is breaking down. Jaemin shouted over the noise. The crystal network is losing power. Sunmai ran to one of the crystal engines she had been studying. We need to redirect power to the main anchor points, she yelled. Captain Yoon, show me where the other engines are. Captain Yoon nodded and started giving orders to both crews. Do-hee, take their science officer to the forward crystal chamber. Tai-ho, help my men secure the cargo hold crystals. Everyone else, follow me. They split up quickly. He-jin went with Sun Mai and Captain Yoon to the main engine room. The walls kept changing around them. Sometimes wood, sometimes metal, sometimes pure energy. They had to move carefully to avoid falling through the gaps in time. In the forward chamber, Ji-min worked with Do-hee to adjust the crystal frequencies. The crystals respond to human thought patterns. Do-hee explained as they worked. You have to think about the time you want to anchor. Ji-min focused her mind on the present moment, while Do-hee focused on 1872. The crystals between them pulsed brighter, creating a stable bridge between the two times. Down in the cargo hold, Tai-ho and the original crew members formed a human chain. They passed crystal shards from one time period to another, building new anchor points to hold the failing temporal field together. The field is stabilizing. Ji-min's voice came through the radio. But we need more power. In the engine room, Sun Mai looked at the main crystal cluster. It was huge, bigger than a car, and pulsed with deep blue light. We need to connect all the crystal networks, she said. Create one big anchor point. But that much power could tear the ship apart, Captain Yoon warned. The entity's message flashed urgently. Must rescue. No other way. He-jin looked at the aging captain. Your crew, your ship, your call. Captain Yoon straightened his uniform. Do it, he said firmly. My crew chose to be part of this experiment. We'll see it through. Sun Mai started connecting crystal circuits while He-jin and Captain Yoon held the unstable pieces in place. The ship groaned around them as energy poured through its wooden bones. Everyone brace yourselves, Sun Mai shouted. Final connection in 3, 2, 1. She connected the last crystal. Light exploded through the ship. Every piece of wood, every nail, every rope lit up like it was made of stars. The entity's patterns became a blinding display. Hold steady. Paths aligning. In the forward chamber, Ji-min and Do-hee held onto their crystal array as power surged through it. The crystals sang like bells as time paths locked into place. In the cargo hold, Tai-ho and the crew watched as their makeshift anchor points caught fire with blue flame. The flames didn't burn. They froze time itself, holding the different periods in perfect balance. It's working. Ji-min's excited voice came through the radio. The temporal field is stabilizing. All paths are holding. But they weren't done yet. The ship was still shaking. The entity's patterns spun faster than ever. Final steep remains. Crews must shoes. Now. He-jin grabbed his radio. All crews, report to the main deck. It's time to make your final choice. Which time will you call home? Both crews gathered on the main deck of the Mary Celeste. The ship now floated in a space between times, with different periods visible through the surrounding darkness like windows into other worlds. The entity's patterns formed a giant sphere around the ship. Time PHS stable. Choose now. Each choice safe. Each choice real. Captain Yoon stepped forward first. My crew has already made their choices, he said. Half will return with me to 1872. We'll sail the Mary Celeste to a safe port, away from the storm. The mystery of our disappearance will remain, but we'll live. The other half, Do-hee continued, will stay here. Help the Watchers with their experiments. Learn the secrets of time itself. He-jin looked at his own crew. What about you, Sun Mai? Sun Mai smiled. I'm staying. The crystal engine still holds so many secrets. The Watchers have so much to teach us. She turned to Ji-min. Want to join me? We could learn things no human has ever known. Ji-min shook her head. I need to go back. Write up what we've learned. Help others understand what we found here. I'll return too, Tai-ho said. Someone needs to protect the truth about this place. The entity's message glowed softly. All choices accepted, but one in more truth remains. The patterns shifted, showing them images from different times. They saw Sunmi working with the crystal engines. Then they saw her children, and her children's children, all working with similar technology. The images kept moving forward in time until, "That's me," Jaemin whispered, "and Taeho, and Hojin. We're all descendants," Sunmi finished, "of the people who stayed. The Watchers showed me this too. History didn't just preserve the mystery of the Mary Celeste. It preserved us, protected us, made sure we would be here to complete the circle." Hejin looked at Captain Yoon with new understanding. "That's why the Watchers chose your ship. They saw all of time at once. They knew what would happen, what had to happen." The entity confirmed, "Yes, all connected, all necessary. Time is not lying. Time is HFY." One by one, the crew members made their choices. Those returning to 1872 stood with Captain Yoon. Those staying moved to join Sunmi. Hejin, Jaemin, and Taeho prepared to return to their own time. "What happens now?" Hejin asked. The entity's patterns began to separate. Each path geoizoan, each story continues. Mystery remains. Truth lives. The crystal light grew brighter. The different time periods started to pull apart, each becoming solid and real in its own way. "Wait," Hejin called to Captain Yoon before the separation was complete. "What do we tell people about the Mary Celeste?" The old captain smiled. "Tell them we were part of something greater than ourselves, that we chose to help unlock the mysteries of time itself, and that sometimes the greatest adventures are the ones that history remembers as mysteries." The entity's final message shimmered around them. "Time to go. But note GUODBI. All time is connected. All pages open. Experiment continues." The light flashed one last time. When it faded, Hojin, Jimin, and Taeho were back on the Galaxy Pioneer. The Mary Celeste was gone, but their data banks were full of information about time paths and crystal energy. On their main screen, one last message appeared. "Thank you for helping, for understanding, for choosing. Watch these stars. We will meet again." Jaemin looked at her scanner readings and smiled. "You know what's interesting?" she said. "According to these readings, everything that just happened is still happening, and will always be happening, somewhere in that room of time." Hejin nodded. "Some mysteries aren't meant to be solved," he said. "They're meant to be part of who we are, who we become." And somewhere, in the spaces between time, the Mary Celeste sailed on, carrying its crew of explorers, scientists, and dreamers toward new discoveries, forever part of the greatest mystery in maritime history.